What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of NASCAR Round the Track with the Riders, featuring myself, SterlingRider, and Duke Rider.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Before we officially get started, I do have new decor. You can kind of see it. It's not on the wall yet, though, because I have no idea how I'm going to put it up on the wall. But I've got an old Bush Series hood. So that's pretty cool. Shout out to Dylan for thinking of me when he was giving that away. I appreciate it. I needed the decor now, so now I have more background decor. Um, Anyways, we're gonna talk about Atlanta and COTA.
Yeah, for sure. We do have some news that we need to cover before that coming out of Daytona. First off, Chase Briscoe had a pretty hefty penalty coming out of Daytona, having to do with the bolts securing the spoiler to the car. He got docked like 100 points. There was $100,000. Is a whole bunch, basically they were accused of um, messing with a pre-manufactured part, which NASCAR has been pretty clear on over the past few seasons since this car came out that they will not tolerate. Kozlowski's got busted for this. SHR's got busted for this. JGR kind of got busted for this a little bit, just with the piece of tape at Pocono a couple of years ago. Anyway, so Chase Briscoe got this very big penalty that put him in the hole. He was like minus 64 points or something like that after the penalty was assessed at Daytona. Since then, JGR has appealed that penalty and won, which means that Chase Briscoe got his points back. So he went from being dead last in points to, I believe, 14th in points. Um, also coming out of Daytona, if you remember, we talked about the truck race and Parker Kligerman was disqualified from winning after winning the truck race. They appealed and they did lose their appeal. So I don't really understand the process of all this, but the driver and crew chief and some other team members were in the media center when the truck went back for inspection. They're a very small team with a bunch of volunteers. So they had people that were not familiar with inspection and all that. So when NASCAR instructed them to do something as far as raising and lowering the truck, they believed that their argument was that they raised the front too high, which made the back too low. But the appeals committee rejected that claim for whatever reason. And they lost their appeal, which that kind of sucked. But it is what it is. And then the other big news is NASCAR filed a counter lawsuit this week against 2311 Front Row Motorsports and threw in Curtis Polk, which is Michael Jordan's business manager, part owner of 2311 as well. And I don't understand this counterclaim. The way it was worded with all of the media members is NASCAR is claiming that Curtis Polk does not understand the business of NASCAR and caused a lot of different interferences in when they were trying to come to an agreement on the charter system. And basically they're counterclaiming that he participated in antitrust situations because they're claiming he tried to convince the teams to boycott or whatever. I really don't understand it because I don't remember this stuff being in the news. I know that there was a big complaint over the negotiations and the teams were not happy with the negotiations. NASCAR would not talk about the negotiations. The teams did come out and talk about the negotiations, especially Curtis Polk and the people at 2311. Denny Hamlin on his podcast has been very vocal about this and even went as far as to state this week to the media that they needed to have a fact checker present in the room at all times when NASCAR lawyers were speaking because NASCAR lawyers didn't know what they were talking about. So, yeah. So we'll see how this counter suit goes. again, this is believed it's not going to be argued until the actual trial date of December, when the 2311 Front Row Motorsports case goes to trial. The injunction is still scheduled. The injunction appeal is still scheduled for May, to see whether 2311 and Front Row Motorsports will continue to operate as chartered teams. And as a fan of this, and the other thing the lawyer said is that this may cause NASCAR to do away with the charter agreement altogether, which I think would be a very bad move by NASCAR. He went on to say that Curtis Polk is very familiar with the NBA, and he believes that NASCAR should operate like the NBA, but NASCAR is not the NBA. And I agree, NASCAR is not the NBA. The reason NASCAR is not the NBA is because there's not a franchise system in place, like there is in the NBA, like there is in the NFL, like there is in Major League Baseball, Major League Soccer, and all of the stick and ball sports, as you may say. There is not a franchise system set, or there is a franchise system set up where there is not one in NASCAR. And personally, on this situation, I agree with Curtis Polk. I believe there should be a franchise system in place. These charters should not be a temporary thing. They should be permanent. If a team owner wants to sell, he should be able to make his investment back plus some. Just like if an NBA team sold, the person that originally invested in that team that's selling it would be able to recoup money that they've spent on that team, and also maybe make a little bit of a profit. And I believe that NASCAR should have that same system. I don't believe that we should have any teams closing down that have to go, where we have to go back to where it used to be, where they would sell parts and stuff for pennies on the dollar. Especially since the teams are not manufacturing this stuff anymore, that they're getting these sourced parts, and they're just basically putting the model kit together. So I am hoping that NASCAR gets used as a mop in this situation, and that 2311 and Front Row Motorsports completely wipe the floor with them, and that the judge kind of lays down some collective bargaining type agreements in this situation, to where they do have to become a permanent franchise system, or whatever they have come to an agreement on. The NASCAR lawyers seem to state that there's not going to be a settlement out of court, which is why NASCAR filed their countersuit. But again, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't understand all the dotted I's and crossed T's and stuff like that. That's what I gathered from all of the different reporters. And we also have to understand that NASCAR reporters are not lawyers either. They can just take what the lawyers say, report it, and let that be that. A lot of times they've even stated, I don't understand what this means. So that is the news that's come out the past couple weeks. And we talked about Dodge coming back in the last episode, did we not?
No, that happened right after we recorded. So
okay, so yeah, I guess we need to talk about that too. So Dodge is eyeing a return. Oh, this makes me so happy. Especially that it's Dodge, because when Dodge first came back to the sport in 1991 or in 2001, I was Dodge. I was gung-ho Dodge teams. I mean, there were even teams that were teams I didn't like and drivers I didn't like that I was fans of because they were Dodge teams. Dodge is eyeing a return to the Truck Series in 2026, which is good news. They're coming back like they did originally, because originally they were in the Truck Series in 1995 when the Truck Series began, and then they jumped to Xfinity and Cup in 2001. There's mixed information about when they're eyeing a return to the Cup Series, but it's believed that they're trying to get back in at least by no later than 2028, but as early as 2027 into the Cup Series. So this is going to make it interesting, along even with the charter agreement, because this offers NASCAR an opportunity for charter expansion. Um, let's say Dodge wanted to bump an Xfinity Series team up to the Cup Series to be a Dodge team, or start a new team like they did at the beginning with Evernham, Ray Evernham, and Evernham Motorsports. Um, this would give we don't have to worry about getting a charter from another team, about a charter being available. NASCAR opens up a couple spots for these new teams. Now, granted, they have to pay their. They can't just hand them the charter. They can't just say, "Look, here's your charter. Welcome to the sport." Um, these teams or Dodge or whoever is putting the money up is going to have to purchase these charters as they were for purchasing another team's charters. I don't know. Again, I don't know how that would work, but it's a very interesting situation that Dodge, because Dodge at one point their CEO said we will not be returning to the NASCAR series, but they are in other series. They're with NHRA. They're with I can't even name all the different series that Dodge, Chrysler, Fiat, the parent company, um, is involved in. But we see these things happen when these companies, a new CEO comes in, or some new members of the board of directors comes in, and uh, they're not familiar with motorsports. So a lot of times we see sponsors and we've seen manufacturers. The reason Dodge left is because their new CEO didn't care about NASCAR. It wasn't something that was on his plate for marketing, so they pulled out. We've lost other sponsors. We've lost. That was how we lost M&M's. That's how we lost FedEx. That's how UPS went away from the sport for a long period of time, because the companies, they got a new CEO, and NASCAR was not on their marketing advertising radar. So they're like, well, this just isn't worth it to us, so we're pulling out. Well, then when they get a new CEO, 5, 10, 15 years down the road, all that changes. And that's what we're seeing going on with Dodge. So it's a good thing for the sport. There's still a lot of questions to ask, to talk about, that we haven't even quite got the questions to be able to ask yet, because we don't know a whole lot about it. We just know that this is what's being discussed. So obviously they're going to have to present a car to NASCAR. NASCAR is going to have to approve it. They're going to have to find or build their own engine program. Which is another reason that they left in 2013, was because Penske moved back to Ford. Well, Penske was Dodge's engine program at the time. There's a lot of things that they're going to have to do to prepare to do this. Now, the Truck Series, it's not a big deal because those are all the Ilmor engines. They all have the same engine supplier. Every single truck team gets an engine from the same company. So coming into the Truck Series is no big. They don't have those concerns coming into the Truck Series. Obviously, they'll have to present a Ram truck and have it approved by NASCAR and all that. But as far as an engine program, they don't necessarily need that for the Truck Series. But for Xfinity and Cup, they will need an engine program of some sort. So it's exciting. NASCAR's been touting there's a manufacturer coming for years. This isn't a manufacturer coming. This is a manufacturer that is very familiar with NASCAR. They have won championships with Richard Petty. They have won Daytona 500s. They have won Coca-Cola 600s. They've won all the big races. And like I said, they've even won championships. So they've got a lot of Truck Series championships, I know for sure. They've got their last year, 2012, they won the championship with Brad Keselowski and Team Penske. They've got all of these championship wins. I can't remember if they won an Xfinity Series championship or not. I want to say they did, because I want to say that Brad Kay won an Xfinity Series championship with Dodge. But I know they've won a whole lot of races in the Xfinity Series, so I'm excited to see Dodge come back. What about you?
No, absolutely. Dodge. I mean, Dodge is a great manufacturer in my opinion, but to just they've been in and out of the sport before. We've seen them successful, even though times are now different. I'm 100% guaranteeing that once they step foot, once Dodge is back on the track, they're gonna pretty much pick off right where they left off, and be a huge contender. We've been we know NASCAR has been talking about a manufacturer coming back in for the longest time. For what's it been, 12, almost 13 years probably since I think Dodge.
I know they've, yeah, and I know it's been at least 5 or 6 years that they've come out every year saying we're talking to new manufacturers. We're talking to new manufacturers.
Yeah, exactly. So it's good to see we're finally getting something, because it's been so many years that we're, since they've been saying, hey, we're doing this and this, and then we hear nothing else for almost the rest of the season. So I'm excited. I am very interested in seeing how what they may choose, what their popular sports car body they may choose for Xfinity and Cup. Obviously, we know what truck they're going with, Ram for truck. But me specifically, I would like to see the Charger, because its nose is
Yep.
Well, one, I'm a Charger fan, and two, its nose is pretty similar to the rest of the current manufacturers' noses. So I think that would be great, because I saw someone make a Challenger, custom Challenger Cup car, and the very, very square nose did not look good, in my opinion. Yeah, I think it's great. I'm hoping that they very quickly and easily make their way into Cup, and we see 4 of the most popular manufacturers battle it out on the track.
For sure. And the other thing that this kind of brings up is we're talking about we've talked several times about the new console game that's coming out, that iRacing is putting out, and you've been doing some iRacing yourself here recently, and with iRacing having the capabilities and the abilities that they do, it would be a very easy patch for them to put into the game. Say Dodge gets, because they're working on the game, they've got a lot of it complete. It's scheduled to release, I believe, in September, if I'm not mistaken. But they could patch it once they get the schematics of the RAM. They could patch that into the game, very easily with the capabilities that iRacing has. So this announcement seems very timely, because it gives RAM time to get their stuff in and get it approved, but then also gives us fans an opportunity to have something to look forward to that's new and exciting, and that we can experience in through a game like iRacing.
Absolutely. I mean, iRacing has the equipment and the talent and personnel they need to very easily transfer as soon as it's available. Put this and code it into the console game, and even the actual the PC simulator as well. I mean, it's so quick and easy, and I know we're more talking about the game now, but the console game that's coming out, I'm beyond excited for it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, just playing the simulator on the PC it's got me hyped up for the console game. I'm very excited to see everything put into it and the detail, and my biggest thing that I'm hoping for is that they take this and they just keep upgrading, updating, kind of like they do on the PC simulator. That way, if you want me to pay for maybe, every year you want me to pay, $20 for the roster and scheme update, I will 100% do that. that's what I'm hoping they do. Just personally, because one, it gets expensive when you buy a $70, $80 game per year, and knowing me and you will both probably get the most expensive one for all the extra stuff. So
Well,
something like that would save. I know
yeah,
they want to make their money. I get it, but
for sure.
iRacing, they make so much money off the simulator. I could easily
Well,
go broke, but it's just what I hope they do. Who knows?
for sure. And we experienced this with other games. Like NBA, we both are big fans of the NBA games, the new college football game that's come out, and even the wrestling games that come out. And you can only get so far in your career to where they shut it down because the new game's out.
Exactly.
And it's frustrating because now you go to the new game, you've got to start completely over, all over again. Well, with what iRacing has the capability of doing, and what the new generation of consoles with the PlayStation 5 and the new Xbox and all that, and even with PC, what they have the capabilities of doing now is doing just what you talked about, updating the game live. To where if we're 4 or 5 years into our NASCAR career, when 2026 comes out, we don't have to buy a 2026 game. They can make it available for sure for the people that don't have the new game or whatever, but they can also add in updates to the 2025 game that allows you to continue your career path, but gives you all those new updates that the 2026 game would have. They have the capability with the new generation of consoles to be able to do that. And I'm like you, I would happily pay. I'd even go up to even paying $50. I have no problem with that. Once a year for those updates. That way I don't have to start all over again from the beginning of the ARCA series and work my way back up to Cup. And I get 2 or 3 seasons in the Cup. And guess what? I can't do it anymore. I got to go buy the new game.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me continue my career where I can have a 15, 20, 25 season career. And all I got to do is pay for the upgrades for the game. And, just like they do with the PC. So if they are to offer something like this, and this is my recommendation, not just to iRacing, but 2K Sports and whatever game, EA Sports and whatever game people out there that are manufacturing these games, with the technology that we have today, just give us an upgrade. Or an upgrade for the next season. We don't have to buy a whole new game. You're not investing that much in redeveloping and redesigning these games anyway. And we'll take even NBA for example, NBA, WWE, whatever you want to take. Those are not new games. They are updated games from last year.
Yep.
They may have a few new things added to them, but overall the gameplay is the exact same. The movements is the exact same. I could play 25 Madden 25, and I can play Madden 19, and other than roster changes and maybe a few things added to the game, it's the same game.
Exactly, and as gamers, it gets annoying. But I understand these companies want to make money. But at this point, haven't you made enough? Doing an update, you could. I feel like you'd probably make more money off of the updates than the brand new games. In my opinion, because so many more people would buy the update, and because you lose out. Because like you said, we play NBA, we play the college football game, I play Madden. We play the NASCAR games. We play all these, games that normally the only update is the roster. Okay. I'm not going to, there's been multiple NBA games I have not bought because to me, there was no point. I went from NBA 20 to NBA 22. Like I completely skipped 21 because I saw no point in it. Now I will be honest. I wasn't even going to play 22, but they shut down 20 servers. So I couldn't continue career. and then 23 and 24 I got just because they were special edition to Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, two of the best NBA players out there. So I wanted to pay my, respect and honor them and getting those games, the special editions for them. But like 25 I bought because it was on sale, but there was no point in me buying it. In my opinion, I was perfectly happy with 24. I'm just, as you said, they have the capabilities with these next, these big consoles going, coming out, and with their upgrades that they have. I mean, PlayStation literally just started a beta program where they're going to basically upgrade the PS5. Digitally, you don't have to, you can get the new features and maybe a new graphics update somehow with some of the special games with testing all this to see how it works. I feel like they may be the ones that start this ball, to be honest, get this ball rolling, but it's just it's what needs to be done, in my opinion. That's just me.
Because let's face it. All right, let's say you've got 50 people that are willing to pay $50 a year. All right, we'll just make simple math. 50 people that are willing to pay $50 a year for an upgrade versus 10 people that are willing to pay $100 a year for a new game. All right, 50 people for $50 is going to make you more money than 10 people at $100.
Absolutely. I would 100%.
Yes, you're looking at a lower price point, but you're also looking at more consumer. Because it's so hard to get excited about starting over. And especially with a NASCAR game, because NBA is not, it's the same thing with any of these sports games. Starting over, it's hard to get excited about starting over because you're like, man, I'm into my 5th season. I've ran a season in ARCA, a season in trucks, a season in Xfinity, and now I've 2 seasons in Cup, but they're shutting down the servers. I got to start over again. It's hard to get excited about that. So, but just upgrades coming out. I'm going to get the 2026 roster.
Yep.
I'm going to get any new tracks that they've added or any new. We're going to get, because Xfinity has announced. I don't think we covered this. Xfinity's announced that they're not coming back as a sponsor of the Xfinity Series next year.
Oh.
So, that is news. So let's just say Busch takes over again, and it becomes the NASCAR Busch Series again. Okay, so now I could get an update. Okay, so instead of the NASCAR Xfinity Series, now it's the NASCAR Busch Series. Same drivers, same cars, different logo on the car, different logo for the series.
Right.
Okay, I'll pay for that update, and I'll be excited about that update a whole lot more than I'll be excited about starting over. Man, I gotta go back to ARCA and just start playing this whole game over again.
I would have mentioned another thing. We've talked about the Wheel and Modified series multiple times, how they used to be included in these much older NASCAR games. It's in the simulator too, which is a lot of fun. If you want to do a separate DLC pack where, hey, we're going to add a whole new series for such and such price, if you want it. It's on the game. All you got to do is buy it, and it's automatically available to you until, if you haven't bought it, it'll, there's a lock on it. SRX kind of did a similar thing with their game with the super late models, which I immediately bought because I love super late model racing. Do something like that, and then like you said, new rosters. If the name of the series changes, update the name series. Paint schemes. We always get different paint schemes. Most of the time, your primaries stay the same, but we get special ones throughout the season. We get some paint scheme updates. They have the capabilities to do this, and I'm really hoping they do. But either way, I know we kind of veered off track quite a bit, but I'm really excited for the game. I'm itching for it. I know a lot of the devotional diaries that come out have been super. It's like they're teasing us with how good of a game it's going to be. Starting in Grandpa's garage, and then not just doing things on the track, but doing things out in the city and out on town with the team. To build your reputation. It's crazy how much they put into this, and I'm so excited to see it all come together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and with the technology, with the new generation of consoles, a lot of that stuff they're able to do. But even going back to the old PlayStation 2 games, there was stuff that we lost with the PlayStation 3 and 4, and even PlayStation 4, because I think I know they did an upgrade for NASCAR Heat 5 for the PS5, but it's still basically a PS4 game.
Yeah.
There was a lot of stuff that we lost from the PS2 to the PS4 that it sounds like they're adding back into the game. And with the technology and the capability, they have it where they have the technology and the capability in these new consoles, new generation of consoles, that's just as good as having it on a PC. So any update they can do on a PC game, they can do on a console game, because they have that the technology. It used to be like the difference was big between the console and the PCs. Okay, the gap was so big, but it's not quite even yet, but it's a whole lot closer than it used to be with the technology.
Absolutely.
So, and we see that in even live NASCAR racing with the SMT data that they have. The teams used to have to, your team could only monitor your team, right?
Right.
Now every team has that information instantly about what every other team on the track is doing, what every other driver is doing. They've got their when are they hitting the gas? When are they braking? When are they shifting? When are they letting off of the gas? Whatever. They've got that technology right now in real life that they didn't have 5, 10, 15 years ago. Same thing with consoles and gaming, that we have this technology now that we didn't have 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. But the games then, compared to some of the games now, had a whole lot more to them, even without the technology. So now that the technology is so much closer to what the PC is, let's do it. Let's save our consumers money. Let's give them, and even if you charged us the same thing, you could use more content. If the game's $100, you could probably get $100 off of us a year from the content, the updated rosters, you mentioned the paint schemes. Darlington Throwback Weekend is still a big weekend for a lot of teams. A lot of teams still do throwbacks. Throw that in there. As $10, you get all the Darlington paint schemes for Cup. $10, you get all the Darlington paint schemes for Xfinity, Truck, whatever. Throw those in there. You're still going to make your money as if you were selling a new game, because, like you mentioned with SRX, we're going to pay for those upgrades. And if you do it right, we don't have to pay that $100 right off the bat. Okay, we pay $50 for the updated roster and schedule, but then we'll pay $20 for the paint schemes from Darlington. We'll pay $10 for this or $10 for that. Every 2 or 3 months. So you're still going to make your money. You're just making it through different avenues with the same content you'd be putting out with a new game.
Absolutely. I mean, you can look at iRacing, now itself, and I've told you this, they have a subscription, of course, to just play the game. You start out, with a basic package of, select cars, select tracks, and then you go in, and if you want, you want to add on to that, what you have, you buy each thing individually, and of course, the more you buy, the more you save thing. And that's how, it gets expensive if you do it all at once, okay? But if you space it out and or maybe give it to us in priced updates, absolutely. I would say the simulator right now is a little expensive just because of the way they have it set up. Because I'm already paying such and such amount of money a month to play the game, and then for me to participate in more series and at more tracks, I have to go and buy those certain series, cars and tracks on top of that. So they're making a lot of money from that, but they could make almost just as much money as if they did it with a console game that they're doing. Is you have your base package, as we progress, add this, and this, and if you want us to pay for it, I know I'll pay for it. I'm pretty sure 90% of us would pay for it. And that's how I think they should set it up, as we've been discussing. So
yeah, for sure. All right, so we do have races that we need to talk about.
Yes.
But I want to talk about, before we actually get into the races themselves, I want to talk about, first off, I want to talk about I am so incredibly pleased and surprised at what NASCAR Productions is doing with the Xfinity Series on the CW. It has been absolutely amazing to watch these Xfinity Series. And we've said since before we started this podcast that the Xfinity Series is the best racing of the weekend.
Absolutely.
Well, with what NASCAR Productions is doing with the CW, is they are showing us the best television production on the weekend to go with the Xfinity Series. The camera angles are great. I was very skeptical of Adam Alexander because of his past work. He's not always been like super exciting. He's not always been fun to listen to, but the chemistry that he has with Parker Kligerman and Jamie McMurray, it's been surprisingly great. I mean, honestly, and I have enjoyed really, really watching the Xfinity Series on the CW. And I know, again, NASCAR is producing these races. It's NASCAR camera operators, it's NASCAR equipment. It's not Fox, it's not NBC, it's not Amazon or whoever. This is NASCAR doing this. And it's something, honestly, I would like to see NASCAR doing down the road for all of their production. For the Cup Series, the Truck Series, the Xfinity Series. I don't care what station they're on. I don't care what streaming platform they're on or whatever. It would be a lot more consistent to have NASCAR Productions producing the racing content. Fox can have their commentators, NBC can have their commentators, the CW can have theirs, Amazon and TNT can have theirs. That's fine. The networks can pay for that. The networks can pay. But NASCAR Productions, with the work that they're doing on the CW, is so impressive compared to what we get with Fox. Because, yeah, there's close-up angles. Yeah, there's in-car cameras. But they're not as ridiculous. They're not as ridiculously close up as Fox's. And they don't stay on the in-car cameras as long as Fox does. So that's just kind of a production standpoint. I am surprisingly pleased with the CW, but I got my same complaints about Fox that we've had the past several years. Close-ups are terrible, especially at Daytona and Atlanta. I should be able to see more than 3 cars in the screen at a time, especially as close as they race.
Yep.
Use of in-car camera is ridiculous. They spend way too. My other big gripe is they have the under the helmet segment on Fox in the FS1 races. Why do they have the race up in this little box in the corner in this big huge box of somebody on screen talking to an interviewer? I'm not paying attention to. I can listen to them, but I want to watch the race. So the race should be in the big box. Put them like they used to do, like ESPN and TNT and TNN and all those other that used to put on. If they were interviewing somebody, they didn't put them full screen. They didn't put them big screen in the bottom. They put them up in a small little box up in the top corner of the TV. You could still hear the interview, but you were watching the race.
Yeah.
That's with NASCAR Productions on the CW. They are not doing that. So again, just our usual Fox gripes about production.
I mean, like you said, NASCAR with the CW has been very pleasing and phenomenal with what they've been doing there. We don't miss a beat of the action. We get the camera views we need. We get I don't know where I was going with that, but it's great. It's great. But then when you go to watch a Fox, watch the Cup race, it's like, well, now I'm not as excited and interested in watching the race because you don't really show the race. You show two cars going in a circle, which, yeah, I know that's the race, but you also put it in the tiny box on the screen 90% of the race, and that's not cool in my opinion. So like you said, but like you said, the CW has been doing great. COTA was amazing with it being a road course.
Sure.
You have so many cameras you have to worry about, and they did amazing with the camera views and the angles and very smooth transitions from one camera at such and such turn to this camera at such and such turn. So it was great for COTA especially. So
for sure. And I will give both groups credit. The side-by-side commercials. We have had a whole lot less full-screen commercials this year. On Fox especially, we are seeing a lot more of the racing action. Really the only times I've seen them go to full-screen commercials, they do it a lot in the truck race. They need to go side-by-side truck race. But in the Cup races, the only time you really see full screen commercials is under caution.
Yep.
Which is great. So I will give them, a couple thumbs up on that, because that has really made watching the races a lot more enjoyable.
Absolutely. So how about we talk about the actual races now?
Yeah. So at Atlanta, we had all three series, Truck, Xfinity, and Cup, going on. The truck race was a really, really good race. There was only 4 cautions. 2 of those were stage cautions. And the other 2 were for incidents, which we expect in the truck series. But we expect it at the drafting type, because they're going to be big races. The first one was in stage 2, and it involved the 02 truck, the 1, the 18, the 19, the 71, and the 77. On the front stretch, there was a red flag. Kudos to NASCAR for using the red flag.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was a debris caution on lap 108. So, but the race itself, Atlanta was there for the longest time. It was in all 3 series, they would drive 2 lanes side by side. If you were in 10th place, you couldn't go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Just because the whole race, they were side by side. Well, with the pavement wearing out, it's starting to get a lot more slick. It's starting to require a lot better handling. The cream we are starting to see at racing, not just drafting, but at racing is rising to the top, especially in the lower series. You're seeing the best of the best run up front at the races at Atlanta now because it's starting to wear out and the trucks are starting to slide around. But man, the action up front was awesome to watch. I mean, yes, Kyle Busch dominated the race. Yes, Kyle Busch won the race. But to see drivers, they would drive up, they would pass him.
Mm-hmm.
And he would be forced to time just right where he could pass them back.
Right.
And it was amazing watching this truck race unfold because the trucks weren't stuck to the track anymore. They weren't doing the side by side 10 rows deep racing. You actually had to get out there and drive that thing. And Kyle Busch showed and demonstrated through the passes that he was making. I mean, he'd get passed, and the very next lap, or sometimes the very next corner, he'd just pass him back.
Mm-hmm.
He showed that he still has the talent to do this. But it's the best truck race I've seen in Atlanta since they reconfigured and went to this style of racing. And I thoroughly enjoyed this truck race.
No, the truck race was it was amazing. Like you said, the trucks are sliding around. We're not side by side all the way back. We're sliding around. We're racing around each other. We're making passes back and forth. During pretty much the whole race, it was like I don't know who's gonna win because of how much was going on for this truck race. Because I expected a typical Atlanta truck race, but I got the exact opposite. So it was really good. No surprise, Kyle Busch comes out and wins. I'm sure he needed it. It's he hasn't had much luck lately. Period in Cup. So. I mean, that shows you with the way the track is now worn out after they've, repaved it and everything. It shows you he has the talent. He does still have that talent to drive that truck and put it where it needs to be, even though it's slipping and sliding all over the track.
For sure. So the top 10 was Kyle Busch won. Stuart Friesen finished second. I won't commentate on him because just that old-fashioned, if Mama said, if you can't say nothing nice, don't say nothing at all. I have nothing nice to say about Stuart Friesen. Tyler Ankrum finished third, his best finish of the season. Bailey Curry finished fourth. Chandler Smith fifth. Caden Honeycutt sixth. He's another kid. He was very, very impressive last year. And he's continuing that on in the races this year so far. So Ben Rhodes 7th, Ty Majeski 8th, Jake Garcia 9th, and Grant Enfinger 10th. Let's see here. Michael McDowell in his return to the Truck Series in forever. I can't remember the last time Michael McDowell raced. I think it was a few years ago for Front Row Motorsports, but it's been 4 or 5 years. He finished 12th. Daniel Hemrick 16th. Just looking Lane Riggs in 20th. Matt Crafton and Corey Hine both with not so great finishes in 22nd and 23rd. So and then Rajah Caruth, of course, him and William Sawalich was caught up in that wreck that kind of Rajah kind of really caused when you think about it. And they finished 29th and 30th. So, but yeah, it was a good race.
It was. I also want to mention Tanner Gray, Xfinity fastest lap. I don't know if you guys know, but whoever gets the fastest lap for the whole race gets plus 1 point. So it's an extra point for the fastest lap. I think that's kind of cool. Because then it seems like, if you don't hold the fastest lap, you're driving very fast to try and get it for that one extra point. So I like that they included that for all 3 series. So for Atlanta, Tanner Gray got the fastest lap point.
And I just noticed it. I noticed it down here on the rundown. They actually put it at the bottom of the rundown. So I'm glad you pointed it out and we have seen where in the playoffs drivers have missed the next round by 1 point.
Exactly.
So a fastest lap in a race throughout the season could make a difference whether you make the next round of the playoffs or even if you make the playoffs at all. So, yeah, that's a really good thing. The Xfinity race. Raise your hand if you're surprised that Austin Hill won the Xfinity race. When it comes to this style of racing, man, he is absolutely amazing. I mean, he reminds me of what Dale Jr. used to do back in the early 2000s, where he would get out front and you couldn't pass him. Even if you tried, even if your car was faster, even if you had a better motor, better engine, even sometimes if you had drafting help, and we saw this with Austin Hill at Atlanta this year, even with drafting help, there were times that people couldn't pass him. But yeah, I mean, that was. What's your thoughts on Austin, and what is this, his 4th win at Atlanta in the last 5 races or something like that?
I think it was something like that. But I mean, no surprise there whatsoever. Austin Hill's, I believe he is now tied with Tony Stewart and who else? I don't remember who the other driver he tied with, but he is now tied with some of the, with Tony Stewart and another driver on the DraftKings list for most draft race wins, period.
I think it's Dale Jr., if I'm not mistaken.
Huge accomplishment for him to get on that list and be tied with some of the greatest. It's like I said, no surprise. RCR goes back to back in the first 2 races. Is RCR going to, are they making a statement that, yeah, they've struggled a little bit when they're not on draft tracks, but they're here to race? It's not every, I know we see teams go back to back in races, but not RCR, not some of the, lesser team, car teams do that. So
for sure. And this is one of those things though that you have to look at. They have 2 drivers and Jesse Love and Austin Hill that excel at these kind of tracks. But then you also look at both of their resumes on road courses, on short tracks. They are a threat, and we saw it with Austin Hill at COTA. We'll talk about that a little bit in a few minutes. They are a threat with Jesse Love and Austin Hill together. They're a threat. They can go out and they can win on any given weekend. So the Xfinity Series problem here is with the other drivers is this is your opportunity. They're great at these tracks if you got to beat them here because they could go out and win every weekend. Now the rest of the series has put themselves in a little bit of a bind because now both of them are pretty much locked into the playoffs. Talladega is in that last round of the playoffs.
Yep.
If they make it, or in the round of 8, if they both make it to the round of 8, one of those 2 is probably going to win that race.
Absolutely.
And there's a good chance that those 2 could finish first and second, and that first and second place, obviously the winner is going to get into the Final Four, but that could also put whoever finishes second in the Final Four on points. So, you have an opportunity to stop these guys, and they go out the first 2 races of the year and lock themselves in.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So it's very possible. So
And we talked about Kyle Busch in the truck race. Could you imagine Kyle Busch being in one of these RCR cars right now?
he'd be right there with the other two. He'd have a win. He'd be fast. He'd be, hard to pass. I, I
For sure.
That's about all I can say.
Yep. Um, and again, we had the junior motorsports cars working really well together until they didn't. Again, this is a pattern with the junior motorsports cars. Now, unfortunately, the situation that happened between Allgaier and Carson Kvapil, Carson tried to avoid, but he was just getting pushed to where his choices were: I go below Justin or I wreck Justin. And he went below Justin, and it cost Justin a few spots in the race. But then Carson ended up getting caught up in um, some of the melee. But 8 cautions. Again, not too. It is what it is at these kind of tracks. I'm not surprised by that at all. Almost thought there for a minute that Eric Almirola was going to pull it off. He was really, really pushing Austin Hill. And it was kind of like Stuart Friesen and Kyle Busch towards the end of the truck race. I mean, he was Eric Almirola was really, really pushing, and got by. I mean, there was at one point that he got by Austin, but then Allgaier was able to help Austin get back by. But it was Atlanta. It was what we expected from Atlanta for the Xfinity Series. So top 10 was Austin Hill, Justin Allgaier, Eric Almirola, Sammy Smith, Nick Sanchez, impressive as a rookie.
Absolutely.
Jeb Burton, Daniel Dye, also a rookie. Leland Honeyman and William Sawalich and Harrison Burton, not a rookie. Harrison is a Xfinity Series winner. Was able to finish in the top 10 with that team that really struggled last year with Haley Deegan, and then even when they put Joey Logano in the car, they seem to struggle. So it seems like they've found some footing here. So that's the top 10. Impressive. It was a fun race. Again, we saw a lot of the slipping and sliding. Wasn't anybody being pinned down. They couldn't go anywhere because the teams the way it was working out. So fun race.
Absolutely, and then it's as in the truck race Xfinity, your fastest lap was Christian Eckes in the 16. So sadly, he finished 29th. I think he got caught up in one of the wrecks that kind of kicked him out of the race. Period. Yeah.
So yeah. On to the Cup race, and no controversy, nothing to see here, nothing to talk about here. Nobody did anything stupid in this race. Okay. I don't know. That's enough sarcasm. It was a race. It was. I don't know. Give your thoughts and let me think about it.
I'll say this much: it was not as exciting as last year's Atlanta race. But at the same time, it was better. I'm kind of like you. It was a decent race. But we had a lot of, we had quite a few cautions. I don't have the caution count, but
11.
So yeah, there you go, 11, and only 2 of those are your stage breaks. We saw so many people, hit the wall, spin, And just tear up the cars. The cars got pretty torn up during Atlanta, in my opinion. And I really didn't, there till the end, really, I didn't really, that was like, this race is kind of sucks. But I don't know if it's from the track wearing and these cars still having that super speedway build to them or what, but they did not run like trucks in Xfinity. They weren't really slipping and sliding, and when they were slipping in sideways, well, yeah, they were sideways. When they were slipping and sliding, they were sideways or spinning out. So it seems like they need to go back in and turn that super speedway setup back to a speedway setup, with the way the track has now worn down, just because it did not go well for a lot of these drivers with that.
Well, one of the things that I heard talked about a lot on the different podcasts that we listen to, is the tire. The Cup tire is so much wider than the tire that they have for the trucks in Xfinity Series. So there's more rubber on asphalt with the Cup cars. So when there's more touching the ground, the better grip you have. So those cars don't slip and slide like the trucks and the Xfinity cars do. Many of the Cup drivers have come out and said that these are the easiest cars to drive because they don't slip and slide, because there's no horsepower, there's so much downforce, and there's so much grip because of the size of the tire that they don't slip and slide. I will say there was tire wear, not tire wear that we need, but there was some tire wear. But yeah, a lot of these incidences, a lot of them, first off, could be avoided by not racing above your head so early in the race.
Also true.
But a lot of them could be avoided with just why on lap 100 are we bump drafting where we're causing a wreck?
Exactly.
I mean, what is the point of some of these incidences that we have, especially on these drafting tracks? Why are we pushing so hard at the beginning of the race? We cannot win the races until the final lap, but we could lose them anywhere in there by doing dumb stuff or getting caught up in somebody else's dumb stuff. And that's what a lot of these drafting tracks, as they call them now, have gotten to. It's dumb stuff.
No, I would 100% agree. I mean, it's drivers over their head, and we get, dumb mistakes and, some incidents that could have been easily avoided. But, I really don't have anything on this. I do just, there towards the end, I think it was interesting because we saw some not so happy drivers with Carson Hocevar.
There was a line at the end of the race. There was a line of drivers, and we've seen before where drivers won a race or they finished really good in a race, and there's a bunch of drivers that line up to be like, "Hey, congratulations, good job." It was not the case.
No, it wasn't. And I'm so confused of why. Now, I understand why Ryan Blaney went to talk to him, a little aggressive with a push, accidentally caused Ryan to get sideways, and but that happens. It's a bump drafting track.
Amazing save by Ryan Blaney. Though.
Absolutely.
It was an amazing save.
I will give him that credit. He saved that, and I was impressed because he was fully sideways for a minute.
Yeah.
But
and very easily could have snapped up and came back up in front of the field.
Exactly.
And wrecked a whole bunch of other cars.
Very true. But it's just like Carson, to me, besides that, he did nothing wrong. He was racing the way this track was built to be raced. And he had the speed, and he he had an opportunity. Of course, we know that the caution came out, on the final lap, but he had that opportunity to get back to get to the lead. I mean, he finished second. He could have won the race. And I agree with his statement. He said, "This isn't a playground where we're making friends. Yeah, we want to be nice to each other, and we don't want to purposely wreck, but we're here to race for the win. We're not here to be all buddy, during the race, especially towards the end."
And who said that recently in the past 5 years? The first person to meet him after they got out of the car, Ross Chastain.
Yeah.
Ross Chastain said something almost word for word what Carson said back in, I think it was 2020. It was 2019, 2020, whenever him and Harvick got into Darlington. I can't remember. I think it was 2020, but I could be mistaken. It could have been 2019. But either which way, Ross Chastain said something very similar to this, and Ross was very, very aggressive up until last year when he caused some issues and actually got to the point to where Rick Hendrick called him out, in the media. And the next thing you know, Ross is the past couple of years, ever since then, I think it was 2 years ago when that happened, Ross has not won like Ross is winning. He has he matured? Absolutely. I'm pretty sure that has a lot to do with it, but he's also not as aggressive as he used to be. He's not ruffling feathers like he used to be, and because he's not ruffling feathers like he used to be, he's not winning like he used to. You go back, and a lot of people still give Dale, talk grief about Dale Earnhardt. Dale Earnhardt ruffed a lot of feathers. Dale Earnhardt bumped a lot of people out of the way. Did he wreck a lot of people? No. The wrecks are always what seems to get shown on TV, and everybody's like, well, all Dale ever did was wreck people. No, most of the races he won was because he bumped somebody out of the way. It wasn't because he wrecked them. That did happen from time to time, but Dale was very aggressive all the time. Dale's job is out there race. Ross's job, go out there and win races. Carson does not get paid to finish second. He gets paid to go and win races. His sponsors want him to win races. His team wants him to win races. If he finishes second, that's great. But if you have an opportunity to finish first and you settled for second, we're not going to pay you. That's not the driver we want. And so his aggressiveness, does he need to learn to do it a little less often? Probably. There's no point in being aggressive like he has in some races on lap 5. But what he did on the last lap, no problem with that. Because is that great? If anybody should have been lining up after Atlanta to confront a driver, it should have been Austin Cindric and William Byron meeting the third place finisher Kyle Larson at his car, because Kyle wrecked both of them clearing himself.
Yep.
And this is not the first time Kyle has done this exact same thing. And for some reason, when he makes these stupid mistakes, one of his teammates always gets caught up in it. We've seen Chase Elliott get taken out by Kyle Larson. We've seen Alex Bowman get taken out by Kyle Larson. We've seen William Byron get taken out by Kyle Larson because he's... And I texted you when I was watching the race. I says, I cannot believe the person that is claimed to be the best driver in the world makes the biggest, dumbest mistakes on these drafting tracks.
Mm-hmm.
So how is he the greatest driver in the world when he's making these stupid mistakes?
And it's a great question. And I know there's been a lot of interviews with Kyle, talking about these drafting tracks and super speedways tracks, because his records at, them are not good at all.
Mostly because he puts himself in bad situations.
Exactly. And I get that. That comes with some learning, experience. But he's been around long enough that by now he should know, hey, I shouldn't put my car there because this is probably what will happen. And but you don't see that. So it's almost like he thinks about it and just does it, and then it costs him when he doesn't, think about it and then considers the possibilities.
And on a short track, that move would 100% worked because Austin Cindric would have let off and let him up. And a lot of times in those situations, Kyle would have probably lambasted the wall with the side of his car. Austin would have turned down and drove underneath him and went on about his way. But because it's a drafting track, Austin's not going to let off. Unfortunately, William put himself in a bad situation because he was coming up the track as Austin bounced off the wall, but he wasn't expecting Austin to bounce off the wall.
Mm-hmm.
So had Austin been able to keep his line, William would have been okay. But because of the mistake that Kyle Larson made, it put Austin Cindric into the wall, which bounced him off the wall into William Byron, essentially ending both of their days. So, but all in all, and you mentioned the finish, there was a lot of fans complaining, well, we didn't get the finish like we got last year. We didn't get a 3-wide finish. But when you go back and you look at where the 3 cars were that finished first, second, and third were when the caution lights came out, guess what? They were 3 wide.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So you technically
just
did.
So happened to be that Christopher Bell was leading, Carson was second, and Kyle Larson was third. I mean, and Carson Hocevar put himself in that situation by making what I would say, I know Ross had some issues with it, some other drivers had some issues with it at the end of the race, but you said it, Carson didn't do anything wrong. Carson put himself in a position to win the race. He made the decisions that he needed to make for his team.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But all right, top 10: Christopher Bell, Carson Hocevar, Kyle Larson, Ryan Blaney. He rebounded.
He did
from that spin that we talked about, which is probably why he wasn't as mad.
Yeah, I would agree.
Ricky Spinhouse finished 5th. I'm sorry, but yeah, okay. He did take a half the field in the Daytona 500.
Very true.
Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, Ross Chastain, Bubba Wallace, and John Hunter Nemechek in the top 10. So, very, very impressive by some of these drivers. This is probably their best for some of them. Ricky's probably gonna slip here. John Hunter Nemechek's probably not gonna be able to keep up that momentum. The rest of the top 10, they've proven, who they are in the past, and I think Carson, if Carson does not win a race this year, I'm gonna be shocked.
I would 100% agree. I mean, we saw how well he did, his rookie season. We see how well he's doing now. He's, Spire has stepped up. Spire's got the team. Spire's got the setups. That any one of their drivers, I believe, has a huge chance to win this season.
Oh yeah, they have definitely invested in the growth of their team. They have 3 winning race car drivers on the track right now. If all 3 teams won this year, I would not be surprised.
Yeah, especially with don't just think about the drivers. Think about the teams themselves. They've got people, on their pick boxes and in the garage that are very well known because of where they've been and what they've done, in the past. I did, again, I want to mention Xfinity fastest lap point goes to AJ Allmendinger for Atlanta. Finished 14th.
What is, we talk about these Xfinity fastest laps. it's the drivers that are getting these. Everybody's like, oh well, it's going to be the person that wins the race because obviously, if you win the race, you had the fastest lap, and we will see that as we go progress throughout. But at these drafting tracks, no, very seldom is the person leading the race going to have the fastest lap.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually going to be somebody that's got somebody behind them pushing and somebody in front of them pulling.
Yep.
So, but again, and we've talked about AJ, and we've talked about him moving back up into the Cup Series with all the road courses on the schedule this year, and the way he has come on the mile and a halves and short tracks. AJ could be a threat to win, and him getting this 1 point could be the difference as to whether he makes the playoffs or not.
Absolutely.
Or whether he goes into the next round of the playoffs or not. So, right now we're 2 races in. We're talking about this, but at the end of the season, when we look at the final tally of who had the most fastest laps and what those points did for their point standings at the end of the season, we could see this be a very big deal.
Absolutely. No, I think it was a really good move by NASCAR to put this into the system because, like I said earlier in this episode, we're gonna see them be a lot more aggressive when they're not holding that fastest lap because, as you mentioned, that 1 point could change the whole reason to get into the playoffs.
And it's a big throwback to what NASCAR used to do. You used to get a point for leading a lap, and you would get 5 bonus points for leading the most laps. At one point in time, they had a bonus for the halftime. If you led whatever lap was halfway, you got a financial bonus for that. And sometimes, I can't remember if they gave a bonus point for that at one point or not. But and when we go back to those 1 points for leading laps or 5 bonus points for leading the most laps, those made differences in championships. Drivers were moving over so that a member of the same manufacturer or a member teammate could get that bonus point for leading that 1 lap. Drivers would stay out an extra lap when during pit cycles to be able to get that bonus point for leading that extra lap because they meant so much. And I think this has the potential of doing the same thing. I wish they would add to this and give bonus points for the driver that led the most laps.
Mm-hmm.
That would possibly do away with a lot of this fuel mileage stuff that we see, especially on these drafting track situations. Because the reason we see the side-by-side at Daytona and Talladega is because of fuel mileage. That's why they drive side. Yes, they're driving 190 miles an hour 3 wide. Okay. But the only reason they're driving 190 miles an hour 3 wide is because they're saving fuel. If they weren't saving fuel, they'd probably be doing 195 single file.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So yeah. But these points could very well have a massive impact at the end of the year. And when we get to the end of the year before the playoffs, we will examine where we're at with who's had the most fastest lap and has it affected their playoff eligibility or whether they're going to make the playoffs or not. And it could be we could see a 30th place car with the most fastest laps.
Absolutely. Excuse me. So,
that might be a throwaway. He had the 10 fastest laps of the season. He's not going to make the playoffs. We lost 10 points.
Yep.
But again, you could also have somebody getting in the playoffs by 1 point because one race they had that fastest lap.
Exactly. So, yeah. Well,
so moving on to COTA.
First road course of the season.
Yes. Oh man, the whole weekend. This is COTA's third year, or third or fourth year. I think it's the fourth.
I
year.
believe it's third with Xfinity, fourth with Cup. No, it's fifth
Okay.
with Cup. It's fifth with Cup. We've had
Okay.
yeah, because we've had four.
2021 was for sure, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So either which way, they do not have a contract with NASCAR or Speedway Motorsports next year. It would be a shame to not have COTA on the schedule, especially the work that they put in to make this a shorter track.
Absolutely.
Which I don't know about you, I thought it was a better race. The shorter track was. I thought it was a better race.
No, I absolutely agree. When I saw the tweet on X, I was like, well, why did we shorten it? You're like, what was the reason? What was wrong with the original layout? But then, after, I did get some comments on it. It's like, they, shorten it for, shorter caution laps, faster back to going green, and, better spots for passing. There were a lot of good things told to me. Because I was, I liked the original layout, but once I saw the actual racing, I was like, okay, this was a smart move. The racing is better. It stays closer together, especially with the leaders. Because throughout the whole weekend we saw racing for the lead, for most of the race. So I am impressed. I know I was kind of like, this looks dumb at first. But in my opinion, it was a great idea.
Well, it kind of reminds me of a few years ago when they lengthened Sonoma and they went to the original Sonoma layout with the additional infield things, and we're like, oh, hey, the track is longer, it's got more passing zones, it's going to be a better race. And they ran that for a couple years, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
And then they went back to the layout that they'd been running for many, many years, which brought them down into the very tight turn at the bottom of the hill, very high pace, where they had to brake a lot. And it made for a better race. And one of the other reasons that NASCAR used to explain this was it would put more racing in front of the fans. So I was with you. I'm like, okay, we're shortening this race, the track, because they added more laps to the race, which I think was great. My question was, I wasn't really upset about it, but my question was, is it going to be a better race? Will shortening the track make a better race, or will it not? If it won't, we just wasted a lot of money. And if it will, then that's great, and it was worth it. I was happy with the results of this race, and all the other podcasts that we listened to. And I will not use the word that Dale Jr. used, but he went from having a very negative opinion of COTA, period, to having, he said it was an awesome race, and I have to agree. I didn't have a negative opinion of COTA. But what we saw this year was better than what we've seen in the past.
I would agree. I do just want to mention, I think it's funny how the trophy was already made. So they just kind of chromed the actual course on the trophy. I thought that was kind of funny. So you still had the actual course, but the brighter chromed out part of the actual course that they ran was on the trophy as well. So
that's kind of like the boot at Watkins Glen and the infield course at Sonoma.
Yeah, but
it's still there.
Yeah, very true.
You just don't use it.
I do want to mention, like you said, COTA doesn't have a contract for next season, so I would definitely hate to lose this race.
For sure.
However, you spoke of Sonoma, and this reminded me this. I saw Sonoma Raceway tweet a picture of the track, and it was absolutely beautiful. It was green scenery with the track. It looked amazing. And then somebody had retweeted and it was like, they do this just to mess with us and tease us.
Yeah. Because there've been a lot of drivers that have tried to go to Sonoma, in the spring because of that. Because when they go in the summer and in the fall, or when it's usually a summer race, harvest season has already come and gone in that area. So all you have is the brown. You got the green grass, but you got the brown grapevines because all of the grapes have already been picked and all that. So there have been a lot of drivers that have mentioned going there in the spring, and if they switched basically the COTA date and the Sonoma date and took them out there in the spring, it would fit right along with the West Coast swing that we've got going on with Phoenix and Vegas. So probably a good idea, because I agree with you. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Absolutely, yeah. So I, just when you mentioned that kind of makes me curious if that may be something in the play. But who knows? I guess we'll see. I would like that though. So yeah.
The Xfinity race was interesting. And I use the word interesting because Connor Zilic, and we talked about him a lot coming into the Xfinity series, being on the pole, big surprise. Kind of like we talked about Austin Hill winning the Atlanta race and leading a lot at Daytona. Big surprise that Connor Zilic goes out and wins the pole. But he had a little hiccup during the race, and he got a pit road penalty. Caution came out. He dove on the pit road. Actually, he was pitting when the caution came out and chose to go ahead and continue down pit road, and it put him in the back. He raced his way back up. Had some hurt feelings along the way. Bumped some people out of the way. Made some people angry. He has said several times on podcasts this week, because, of course, let's see here. He was on Door Bumper Clear, and he was interviewed on another podcast. I can't remember which podcast
he was. He was on Happy Hour, the Thursday episode, I believe.
That's right. Anyway, he said, he's like, yeah, I had a fast car, and there were times that I pushed the issue where I shouldn't have pushed the issue and made some hurt feelings. He says, but he's like, as a young driver, he's learning these things. And he'll get better at making those mistakes. And because and we talked about this a little bit with Carson Hocevar, he wants to get to the front. He wants to win the race. He wants to lead every lap. And Carson and Connor just going to have to learn to be a little bit more patient until it counts, but yeah, excellent race there. Those last few laps between Connor and William. Of course, I'm cheering for William.
Yeah.
I need William to win in this 17 car, dadgummit. All the other drivers, the drivers that have driven it before, Chase Elliott and William and Kyle Larson, have both won in the 17 car. I need William to win in the 17 car.
Mostly because you just want the car.
Well, I mean, yeah, but still, it was a good battle between him and Zillage those last few laps. But again, we talked a lot about Austin Hill and Jesse Love and what they did at Daytona and Atlanta. Here they are; they're both in the top 10, and Jesse just one spot short of being in the top 5. So, and Jesse really struggled on the road courses last year. Austin Hill, I think he finished third at COTA last year, second or third at COTA last year. So, but the Xfinity Series was the best race of the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And it was fun to watch Connor come up through the field.
Yep.
Yeah, he bumped some people, he hurt some people's feelings, but this is big, put on your big boy pants and get over it.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Junior Motorsports again proves that they put cars on the track that are capable of winning any race that they go out to. Of course, Hendrick Motorsports is Hendrick Motorsports, finishing second. I do give a shout out to Sam Mayer, though, in that 41 Haas factory team. We really weren't sure what to expect from them this year, and they have impressed in all three races so far.
Mm-hmm.
So he finished third, Austin Hill fourth, Christian Eckes fifth. Christian was another one of those question marks coming into this year. We saw what he did in the Truck Series, multiple race winner. Would he perform in the Xfinity Series? And so far, so good.
Yep.
For Christian, Jesse Love sixth, Taylor Gray seventh. He needed this run. He not fared so well at Daytona and Atlanta.
Yeah.
So for this JGR team, Ross Chastain in another Junior Motorsports in eighth, William Sawalich in the 18 JGR car ninth, and Blaine Parkins in the Jordan Anderson Racing number 31 finishes 10th. So, and again, we mentioned the Haas factory team, Sheldon Creed, and 12th. But yeah, I really enjoyed watching this Xfinity Series race. I do want to address, we mentioned Carson at Atlanta. I do want to address the incident that Carson had where he got hit and sent into the tire barriers and could not refire his car, and they ended up towing him back. It was an ignition issue. There was damage to the car, but it wasn't a race-ending damage to the car. But Xfinity's policies is still what they used to be. They don't have the new cop policies where if you get a tow, you're towed to pit road. Xfinity is still, if you need a tow, we're towing you to the garage, you're out of the race.
Yep.
So that was what happened with Carson there. Didn't really get a chance to even show that he that his car was capable at this race because of that early incident. So anyway, yeah, that's the Xfinity race. Good race.
Yeah, even though Carson, had that issue, he still he ended up with the fastest lap point too. So
mine says the number one car of Carson Quaffle. I was talking about Carson Hocevar.
Oh.
Same first name, different last name.
Yeah, we got to use last names a little more often. Okay, excuse me, Carson Quapple, yes, had the fastest lap in the Xfinity race. So
yeah. Hey, we forgot to, of course, we'll get to that in a minute. So, and then we had a cup race, and I want to say the cup race, in my opinion, we'll talk more detail about the cup race. In my opinion, the cup race, it was a good race, but there were a few times when the leader, whoever the leader was, would get out 2 and 3 seconds ahead of the rest of the field.
Yep.
And that is, I used to have a problem with that. I really don't have a problem with that, but at road courses, I don't know. They shortened the track. They made it a faster track, really. But it just doesn't seem to be something we're used to anymore on road courses. So it was different during those long green flag runs where the leader would get out by 2-3 seconds.
Yeah.
So, but this race started off perfect, did it not? Going in lap 1, turn 1, all 37 drivers made it through clean, no incidences, just what you'd expect from the best race car drivers in the world, right?
I don't know.
I got to learn to control my sarcasm.
Yes.
Ross Chastain, I no idea what he was thinking trying to go from 10th to first in the first corner. No idea what he was thinking.
That hurt too. That hurt.
Well, yeah, I mean, it wiped out Chase.
Immediately, and it's with I was like, okay, this is our weekend where we're gonna we're gonna start that ball rolling. We're gonna get Chase back into that. We're gonna win a few races of the season, and turn one, he's backwards. I was like, well, there went that. I was like, I guess this race is kind of done for him.
And not just backwards in the middle of the pack.
Yeah.
I mean, he was what, starting fifth?
He started
fourth or fifth?
He was third.
He was third.
He started third.
And he's in front of the pack, and he's got cars going by on both sides. The feeling you don't want to have lap one, turn one.
Yeah, and especially with turn one of COTA.
I mean, yeah, I was just so, and I'll make, I know all the other podcasts that I've listened to, and even if you go back and you listen to Kevin Harvick and Clint Boyer and Mike Joy talking about this, Ross was the first one in line last week at Atlanta, right? To meet Carson when Carson got out of the car, and here we see Ross Chastain, who's been in the Cup Series since 2000, or since 2018, 2019 was when he ran his first full season. Granted, he wasn't up front with a quality team, but he ran the full season. So making a rookie mistake. I mean, this is something you would expect a rookie to do.
Yep.
That's just a bad decision. Denny said on his podcast, Denny Hamlin, he's like, I don't know where he was going or where he thought he was going, but wherever he was going, he wasn't going to make it.
Nope.
And he didn't. And it caused Chase was very, very, very lucky that his race was not over.
Yeah.
Because it very well could have been a head-on with another driver and ended his day and the day of another driver.
Absolutely.
So very fortunate that did not happen. But let's see, there was only 4 cautions. The stage 1 caution, the stage 2 caution. There was an incident with the 99 and the 87. And then there was an incident later in the race. But let's talk about this incident with the 99 and the 87, which was Carson Hocevar and Daniel Suarez. Carson, again, had a penalty and had to go back to the back of the field. He was, up to this point, he was very impressive in that 87 car.
Absolutely.
On that note, it's good to see a sponsor come back to the series. With Red Bull coming back into NASCAR, and they're sponsoring SVG and Connor, but Connor, he made that mistake. They had that pit road incident. I can't remember. Was it speeding? I can't remember exactly what happened. I think he was speeding on pit road or pit, any which way, whatever it was. It put him at the end, at the rear of the field, and he's working his way up, and Daniel gets loose in front of him, and Carson's has got nowhere to go, and it ends his day. Yeah, that was a big.
I felt bad because he he was fast. He was moving up the track, and it took him out. I do got to give props here. He had tweeted such a fast car too,
Oh yeah,
and you saw responses. But the biggest one that NASCAR specifically pointed out was Kyle Busch's. He said, I forget exactly what he said, but he said, "Keep your head up and keep pushing," basically. And
yeah, for sure.
And NASCAR has said, look at these drivers with their first Cup Series start, not the best finishes at all. But these are
What Kyle mentioned. Kyle was like, "Well, it don't feel bad because I finished last in my first start too." Was the tweet?
Yeah.
That's somebody to compare yourself to. I mean, multi-time champion, um, current active driver with the most wins in the Xfinity Truck and Cup Series. He doesn't have the most wins in the Cup Series, but he's the active driver with the most wins.
Yep.
Does have the most wins in the Truck and Xfinity Series. So, if you're going to have a career comparison, there's not much better than Kyle Busch to compare your career to.
Absolutely. And like I said, when you look at that list of drivers with their first Cup Series start, they're all current champions. So Connor will get there. I believe he will 100% get there. Just I hate that first start has a tough break, but it happens.
Well, and here's the other thing that we'll just the irony of this. Obviously, Daniel didn't do anything intentional to take Connor out because it ended up taking him out too. But you look at the irony of this. Daniel Suarez signed a 1-year extension last year, and we talked about, if you go back and you listen to our podcast, really throughout the season last year, even after he won at Atlanta, we talked about Daniel being on the hot seat for potentially not having this ride in the future. He did sign that 1-year contract. Connor is another Trackhouse driver.
Mm-hmm.
Not only is he a Trackhouse driver, now he's a Red Bull driver. So he has substantial financial backing.
Absolutely.
Behind him. Could Connor be in line to be in this 99 car next year?
It's very possible in my opinion, because like you said, we've talked about Daniel, being on that potential hot seat, and I know I've mentioned with the team chemistry between him and Chastain and SVG now in the picture, and with Trackhouse. It would suck, and it would be hard for Trackhouse to say, "I'm sorry, Daniel, but we need you to sit out," or but I still feel like Connor's he's got too much behind him, backing him to compete with at this point. Because Red Bull coming back in the sport, that's a huge step, and they're not just coming back in the sport for Connor, but for SVG as well. So they're two Cup cars and drivers with huge potential. It's going to be hard for Daniel to keep up with that. He's going to have to prove himself on the track to do so.
For sure. And you have to remember, going back to what Carson Hocevar you talked about, he said at Atlanta, this is a business. Sports in general is a business. NASCAR is a high dollar business. If you have a sponsor saying, I want this guy in Cup full time, and then this other guy, you've got him in Cup full time, but he doesn't have a sponsor. He's not bringing money to the table. And this doesn't matter whether the driver brings the sponsor or the team brings the sponsor. If you don't have a sponsor saying, even if it's a team sponsor saying, I want this guy in my car, but you have a sponsor over here saying, I want this guy in the series, it doesn't matter how popular Daniel is. It doesn't matter how good of friends Daniel is with the ownership of Trackhouse. What matters is I've got a race winning driver with a sponsor with a lot of money for this car versus a race winning driver but no money. I'm going to take the sponsor and the driver.
Absolutely.
Now, if I have a sponsor over here that has a non-proven driver versus a driver that's a proven driver with no sponsors, I may be able to convince the sponsor to sponsor this guy because he's proven to win. He's a proven winner. But we see with Connor Zilic, Connor has won races. Connor, he's won 2 Xfinity races. He's been impressive in his Truck Series starts. He's won the Rolex 24. And he's got Red Bull in his pocket.
Yeah.
Now, okay. Daniel's a proven race winner. He's won a few races, not a ton of races. Does he have a sponsor in his pocket? Does he have a sponsor the size of Red Bull in his pocket? So Trackhouse is possibly going to have to make a business decision. And I hate to say it, but unless Daniel goes out and really performs this year, which we're not seeing happen, the obvious decision is going to be Connor Zilic in the 99 car next year.
Absolutely.
So there is some irony there that the two of those were caught up in an incident. But, again, Daniel didn't do anything on purpose to take Connor out. It was just wrong place, wrong time for Connor for sure.
Yeah, and that happens on especially on tracks like this. There's only so much you can do. But the future's bright for him. The exact thing said that Kyle said, if I can find it again, I pulled it up. Now nothing wants to work, of course.
Well, yeah, because you're on camera.
Of course. I'm on Twitter too much, apparently. There it is. He said, "Your future's bright," and then my phone wants to get off of it. "Your future's bright. I finished last in my cup debate too."
Yeah. So
that for Connor, that's got to be a huge morale boost and confidence boost from one of the best drivers out there in NASCAR to say, hey, you can do this.
For sure,
you've got it ready to go. And I was looking for another tweet. Somebody said, "Who would have thought Kyle Busch would be the bad guy of today?" Or I mean, the good guy of today.
The good guy of today, for sure. Yeah.
We've seen Kyle, especially when he first went over to RCR, he slowly started to change. But seeing how Kyle has really gotten rid of that, mentality of getting booed and thinking it's the best thing ever. He's really stepped up and been a lot nicer and calmer and not so angered towards after races and trying to win races. So it's interesting to see how he's changed and how he's now considered a good guy in the sport.
Well, several things come to mind with that. First off, he's matured. He's older than he was. Second off, he stated, he's like, look, I look at my son coming up with Braxton Busch coming up. He's like, I want to be a role model driver for my son, and who I was before is not the driver I want my son to be. It's not the person I want my son to be. But also, something else that's helped Kyle mature is Kyle's been humbled. He went from a team that could win any given weekend and did. I mean, you just look at Kyle's resume over at JGR to now he's with a team that's not going to be in position to win every week. So he's been humbled a lot by having to go to RCR. And in his humility, it's helped him mature. And it's helped him to see what it's like to take a 15th place car and finish 12th.
Yep.
Take a 20th place car and finish 15th. Take a 10th place car and finish 7th. He's seeing what that is now. Whereas before, Kyle had a first place car every week, but in his big, Kyle would make a lot of mistakes because he's like, well, I should be running first. I'm not running first, so I need to be running first. And he'd make mistakes in doing so. And then he was mad when he got out of the car because he had that first place car and he didn't finish first. Okay, so now he's having to understand what it's like to have a 15th place car and be able to finish 12th and so on and so forth. So he's being forced to mature because he's being forced to be humble. And that's winning Kyle a lot of fans, but it's also helping Kyle to see what he wants, the kind of driver he wants his son to grow up to be. So the Kyle Busch of today is a lot more likable than the Kyle Busch of 2019, 2020, 2021, when he was winning everything out there. And you can almost say the same thing for Jimmy Johnson too. The Jimmy Johnson that they interviewed after the Daytona 500 that finished third was not the same Jimmy Johnson that they interviewed after Homestead in 2016 when he won his seventh championship, because he's been forced to drive equipment that wasn't first place equipment every week. So you see the maturity come along in Kyle Busch, and I believe that maturity and that humble mentality is much more enduring to fans than the brash, stick it in your face, egotistical guy that we used to see.
Absolutely. So it's just, if you think, back when we were seeing him being that bashful guy, who would have thought, he'd be the nice guy now? You see different things happen that helps somebody, notice things like this. Like, okay, I need to fix this because I want to set an example, or, I need to fix this because I don't have that ability anymore because I don't have it, have the equipment. And on
that note, the tweet that Kyle gave to Connor was after he had an almost 2.5 second lead with less than 10 laps to go and ended up finishing 5th.
Yep.
Okay. The Kyle Busch in 2019, if he would have been leading and a caution come out and he would have ended up finishing 5th, would not have tweeted a Connor Zillage that tweet after the race. So, again, it's the maturity that we're seeing out of Kyle Busch, and it makes him so much more likable. And because he would have tweeted in 2019 had this would have happened, his Twitter feed would have been all about him and how he screwed up and how his team screwed him, and how NASCAR screwed him by throwing a caution. There didn't need to be a caution. It would have been all about Kyle Busch.
Yep.
He never would have tweeted to Connor what he tweeted, which leads us to the final caution of the day. And talk about coincidence here again. Kyle Busch has a 2.5 second lead over Christopher Bell, who is catching him because he's got better tires, but probably would, if he would have caught him. Well, he did catch him, and it was a really good race. Between, you had Kyle Busch, Christopher Bell, and William Byron, and Tyler Reddick was catching them, and it was going to make for a very exciting final few laps of this race. But then you get Denny Hamlin hits a pretty significant amount of dirt on the track, which causes and tire debris, which causes him to lose traction, and he spun out Austin Dillon. So uh, Christopher Bell, Denny Hamlin's teammate, is racing Kyle Busch, Austin Dillon's teammate, and just coincidences and circumstances put Denny Hamlin into the rear of Austin Dillon, which brought out that last caution. A lot of people were pointing the fingers at Denny, saying, "Oh, you did it on purpose, to help your teammate out." And you can watch it, and obviously Denny did not do this on purpose.
No.
But it's set up for a wild few laps there at the end of the race. But man, the finish that this was going to be, because we had 4 drivers that at any point in time could win this race. Christopher Bell, he was pushing the issue. You saw him going into turn 1, and he slid up, and William got underneath him for a little bit. Kyle was pushing his stuff to stay ahead. Christopher was pushing his stuff to catch up. I think William and Tyler Reddick were just kind of, let's see how this plays out and let them burn up their stuff. And we come down to 2 laps to go. Maybe Kyle and Christopher have burned up what they've got, and we can just drive past them.
Yep.
That's what it was looking like it was going to be coming up to these final few laps. But then the caution came out, and we really didn't know what we were going to see. But Christopher Bell pulls it off over William. Man, I was hoping for a 2 in a row at COTA for William. But we didn't. We saw Christopher Bell win back-to-back races for the first time in his career.
Yep. Impressive.
Excellent drive by Chris. Hey, what Christopher has done over the past 2-3 years is he has proved and is continuing to prove that he is going to be a threat to win at every track, every weekend. I mean, Christopher Bell is becoming the Kyle Busch of JGR that we saw in the 2010s. I would say, really from 2008 when Kyle Busch first got in that JGR car, all the way up to 2021, where Kyle Busch was a threat to win every single weekend. Christopher Bell is becoming that driver over at JGR.
Absolutely, I would agree. I mean, we just saw it, and he's been a contender. He's up there towards the end of every race. So I would agree with that. He's a little bit nicer than that Kyle Busch, though.
Well, yeah, and a lot more humble.
Yeah.
For sure. But if we look at the top 4 of this race, we have Christopher Bell, William Byron, Tyler Reddick, and Chase Elliott. Excellent rebound by Chase Elliott.
Absolutely.
He passed 2 cars on that final lap to get up to 4th. And just to kind of retouch on the Ross Chastain, Chase Elliott situation, Chase had been told, when you get to him, you let him know. And when he got close to Ross, I think he was still two cars behind Ross. Ross just pulled over and just like, y'all go on. I'm going to at least try to save my day. It didn't save him a top 10 finish, but it did save him a top 15 finish.
Yep.
Because if Chase would have gotten to him and spun him, it would have put him way back in the field.
Absolutely.
Because we saw a lot of single car spins over the weekend that did not get a caution. So, you spin them at the right place at the right time, you don't get a caution.
Yep.
Awesome. But, we look at these top 4 with Christopher Bell, William Byron, Tyler Reddick, Chase Elliott. This could very well be the final 4, the championship 4 at Phoenix.
Absolutely.
championship caliber performance by all 4 drivers, especially Chase Elliott, coming back from where he came back from. That's a championship performance. Absolutely. But if this is your final 4, I don't think anybody would be shocked.
No,
for sure.
I mean we've seen them, we've seen their talent. All 4 of them have been in the Final 4, multiple times. And then Elliott being a former champion as well. I would not be surprised at all if this was the championship at Phoenix. So,
and all 4 of these drivers, you mentioned Chase is a champion. All 4 of these drivers that we're talking about right now will be champions before their career is over. And most likely all 4 of them will be multi-time champions before their career is over.
absolutely.
So anyway, to continue the rundown, Kyle Busch ends up finishing 5th, which is a good run for him. SVG, kind of surprised that he didn't finish better than 6th, but 6th. Chris Buescher, no big surprise there. The surprise of the day, in my opinion, would be Noah Gragson in 8th. And Todd Gilliland even in 10th, with Alex Bowman stuck in there in 9th. Very impressive run by Noah Gragson.
Absolutely.
So no big surprises. I do, however, because a penalty did come out of this. Austin Cindric, early in the race, right hooked a Ty Dillon, which Ty was able to continue with no damage. But Austin was fined $50,000, 50 points this week. He was not suspended, which I think caught everybody off guard, because when we've seen people get right hooked in the past, we've seen it with Bubba Wallace, we've seen it with Chase Elliott. There was somebody suspended last year. I can't remember exactly who it was, for right hooking. But NASCAR's explanation was a suspension would not have been a punishment for the crime, because Ty sustained no damage and was able to continue. Okay, great explanation, but that's not consistent with history. Yes, drivers have right hooked other drivers in the past, have been suspended. Yes, those drivers were usually out of the race as a result of being right hooked, which Ty Dillon was not. But in my opinion, this is not a consistent call, because from my understanding, a right hook to a driver is a suspension. I mean, that's what it has been in the past. I don't see the difference here.
Absolutely.
Yes, Ty did not have damage. Yes, Ty was able to continue, but it's still a right hook. So yeah, this is just where my problem is if we're going to call an apple, we need to call an apple, whether it's a green apple, a red apple, or a rotten apple. It's still an apple. We need to call a right hook, whether it's at a road course, a super speedway, a short track, or a dirt track. A right hook is a right hook. Let's call it a right hook and let the results be the same. I mean, that's just my opinion on this penalty.
I mean, no, I would agree. I mean, we've seen multiple incidents where you know, NASCAR, we've had the same thing, you know, issue or cause of events, and NASCAR does something different almost, you know, almost every
Well,
time.
they've been consistent up until this point, and for some reason with this, they weren't consistent.
And most of the time, you know, like you said, they have been consistent, and then this time they weren't. So what exactly is NASCAR thinking? Why didn't they do that? Because I agree with you. A right hook's it's always been a penalty. It should have been a penalty. So what? Why did NASCAR say no to that?
Yeah, so it's just it's inconsistent again, and NASCAR has been called out a lot, not just by us, but by drivers, teams, media, for being inconsistent. And this is just another inconsistent call that they had a great explanation for, but the explanation is not what the rule book says. So, yeah, we just consistency.
Absolutely.
All right, so fantasy. We'll talk about fantasy after Atlanta. I was loving fantasy after Atlanta. I had a huge lead with 339 points. You had 288 points, and Trey had 287 points. He was nipping at your heels, but I was pulling away. And I'm kind of disappointed. I really thought that I had it. I don't remember my lineup for Atlanta, but I had an excellent lineup uh for this race. I mean, I had Tyler Reddick, Connor Zilic. Of course, his little incident there did not help because I had I had him in the garage. But after Cal Larson and Chase Elliott had their problems, I put him. I actually replaced him for Chase because Chase, had incident. He wasn't running well. Um, but then when Kyle Larson had his situation, I put Chase back in because Kyle lost that wheel. I put Chase back in thinking that Kyle wouldn't do. He wasn't going to beat Zillage at that point. He wasn't even going to beat Chase because he was multiple laps down. Chase was on the lead lap. So I put Chase back in, but then Connor had his issue. It was the third stage. I couldn't trade him out. So I think that was what really cost me because I had SVG, Chase Elliott, Ross Chastain, and then like I said, I had put Kyle back in the garage, which Kyle was able to, because of other incidences on track, was able to rebound a little bit. He still scored more than Connor, so that's what hurt me. Hurt me there, which helped you guys catch up. And I 518 to 497 to 466. In the end, when all was said and done, Trey really didn't make up points on me, but you made up a lot. What was your roster
So
there for COTA?
my roster was Tyler Reddick, William Byron, Chase Elliott, SVG, and Ross Chastain. And I had Connor Zilic in my garage, and I almost switched him out. There, right before the end of stage 2, I almost switched him with Chase. And then I was like, you know what? Something was like I maybe shouldn't. So that's probably where a lot of my points came in because, Chase ended up finishing 4th and Connor got wrecked out. So I kind of saved myself with that one.
So really the only differences we had was I had Connor and you had William. And William finished second, Connor finished last.
Yeah.
So that was a very smart move because we both had Chase, we both had Ross, we both had SVG, we both had Tyler. So it's amazing what one roster difference really can do because you caught up a lot of points on me. So, but hey, I'm doing a whole lot better. I think we both are than we were last year. My worldwide rank is 13,069. My worldwide rank, of course, we missed a race last year.
Very
So my
true.
worldwide rank last year was like 29,000 at this time. So um,
I
we're
don't
better.
I don't know what mine
We're
is.
not perfect by any means, but we're better. So yeah, we'll see how this race this weekend. Yes, Phoenix will be over probably before this gets uploaded. Anybody gets to watch it, but we'll cover Phoenix and Vegas in our next recap. So, um, but yeah, that's our fantasy. Uh, yeah, fantasy is gonna be fun this year. I think.
I would say so. Um, I think it'll be a lot closer for all of us than it was last year, especially as long as I keep reminding Trey to update his roster, which I
Well,
have been
stop
doing.
reminding him, dadgummit.
I
Um,
I have been reminding him to try have him keep up. So
he's an adult. Let him be one. Well, I can't say that because I reminded you a lot. So reminded you a lot last year.
yep,
Um, and then because sometimes when I did remind you, you'd be like, "Oh crap!"
yeah,
And it's like I would remind you like 10 minutes before the green flag, and you wouldn't see my tweet until like halfway through the first stage, or my text message till like halfway through the first stage, which was too late then. But
yeah, because then everything's locked. So I would just try and do what I got with what I got.
like, well, I hope my last week's picks work this week.
Yep. Um. Yeah.
So yeah. Um. You got anything else
I've
before
got
we?
no. The only last thing, and I know it's been a little longer than we expected, but I do just want to point out we have had our first Darlington throwback scheme announced. Austin Hendrick with the 2 car, he is doing a throwback to Dale Earnhardt Sr. And Dale Earnhardt Jr. is super pumped about it. So I just wanted to throw that out. So I'm looking forward to, now that the first one has been released, to start seeing the others be released.
Still, you still cannot. And we've had this discussion on Twitter with some big names on Twitter about the number placement. The number placement is killing these Darlington throwbacks.
I
They are, you know, okay. It looks okay. I'm never gonna love it. I'm never gonna like it on regular cars, but on Darlington throwbacks, it just kills it.
absolutely.
This car does not look anything like Dale Earnhardt's car to me. The colors are the same, the font is the same, but the car just doesn't look like a Dale Earnhardt car to me because of the number placement.
Yep.
So I don't know. I have every Dale Senior throwback that has been done. I have the diecast of. This one, I'm not sure about. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not. The number placement is really going to make me have to think really long and really hard about whether I want to spend money on this diecast or not. And at this point in time, I'm going to have to say not. But again, maybe when it comes out, the diecast comes out, I see it in hand, I might be tempted. But pre-ordering is probably not going to happen.
Fair enough. Oh, other than
Um,
that, that's all I
because of
had.
these. So, I did meant to get this done this week. I have not gotten it done yet. This is the COTA win. It finally arrived. If you saw my Daytona 500 review from the 2024 Daytona Win car, this will be coming out shortly. Hopefully within the next week. I meant to do it this week. Unfortunately, due to schedules and some things that I had going on and have going on, um, and some things I'm trying to work on. I was not able to get this done, but I will get it done maybe tomorrow evening. So it'll be up Monday. Finally, I apologize. This did not arrive to me until last Monday. The day after the COTA race is when I got last year's COTA win. But we'll get this up. I don't know why I got last year's Martinsville win before I got the COTA win. But I do have the Martinsville win, so that will be out sometimes around the Martinsville race. I will get it done before the Martinsville race for sure. We'll get it posted on the channel probably Martinsville week, the week of the Martinsville race, before the race goes. That way you can see. I'm hoping for a repeat. But last year's Martinsville race was really special for Hendrick Motorsports. So I do have the regular Raptor car that's not a win, the original release. I do have that I'll be comparing this to. For the Martinsville win, I have three versions. I have the regular version. I have the win car that has all the stuff on. I also have the liquid color version of the 3-pack 123 Hendrick Motorsports finish that we'll be doing comparisons to. So look forward to that coming up on the channel. Obviously, you're doing some iRacing on the channel. Did catch part of your live stream last night where you raced the Roval and did a recap of the Daytona heat race, correct?
I attempted to do the Roval, however, no, so I ended up going to the Oval for Charlotte, and then I went over my Racing League's clash at Daytona. We did a heat race there. I am that does bring me to my last announcement. I am a part of a racing league, H&N Racing League. Right now we have about 22 drivers on the roster. So Daytona will be live. I'll do my best to live stream each race I'm a part of, so y'all can watch it. I got the go ahead from the league owners. We're looking for some broadcasters. So if you want to broadcast a race, if you think you could do that, let us know. I will reach out to them and try to get y'all in touch with the manager and get some broadcasters. So just throwing that out there. But yeah, looking forward to that. We have a set schedule. Nothing like the actual Cup Series schedule, but a couple races we go to that Cup doesn't is we're doing USA International, and we'll also be going to Auto Club as well. So I look forward to
the 2 Mile Auto Club.
Yes,
what it used to be.
Awesome.
Well,
I believe so. I'm not 100% sure, but yes. Our schedule is Daytona, Atlanta, the Roval, which will suck for me, Michigan, Auto Club, Bristol, Nashville, Charlotte, Talladega, Chicagoland. So we'll also be going there.
awesome.
USA International, and then our final is Las Vegas. Playoffs start at Talladega, and your championship race is Las Vegas for us. So
awesome. I bet you that's going to be a better championship race than Phoenix.
I would say it will be. So I'm
Las Vegas is one of those tracks that has better racing than Phoenix.
So I am very excited to see how this goes. I didn't do so good in our heat clash. I was doing good until I wasn't, basically. I did. I actually don't remember where I finished. Go watch the stream.
Well, hey, let's just say you pulled a Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski, and you bump drafted at the wrong spot at the wrong time.
Yep, that's exactly what I did.
Yeah, but yeah, we enjoyed. We caught the tail end of that right after we actually caught right before you caused the big one. Was where we jumped on. We were watching family night. We were watching a movie last night. After the movie was over, your mom was like, "Hey, let's just Ray was your brother was, hey, I want to watch Bubba's live stream." And your mom was like, "Well, just put it on the big TV." So I was like, "Okay." So we got it up about the time you send a car down into the field.
Yep. Beautiful. But like I said, part of the league. Look out for that. We race on Tuesday nights. So 8 p.m. Eastern, which is 4 o'clock in the afternoon for me.
Right.
So it's almost perfect. So stay tuned for those. I will do my best to stream all of those.
But yeah, lots to look forward to coming up on the channel with your participation in iRacing, diecast reviews. I'm going to talk to you about some stuff off air with some games with a game that I recently was able to come into possession of that we might do some live stream, kind of get on the ground floor. A lot of times when these games come out, we do not get them on launch dates.
Nope.
We don't get them for early play. We are very frugal with our game spending, and we will get them when they go on sale or something like that. I know that we did pre-order the college football 25. We pre-ordered that pretty much when it went up for pre-order, didn't we?
We had to. I mean, the hype behind it, there was no way we couldn't.
Yeah, because it's been 13 years since I have bought a college football game. So we knew plenty of time in advance. The only one coming up that I can foresee us, and I promise you folks, we will have some streaming of this game when the iRacing NASCAR 25 comes out. As soon as it is available for pre-order, we are saving our money.
Yeah.
So that when this comes out available for pre-order, we can get on and we can get on the PlayStation Store and be like, pre-ordered.
Yep.
And we won't have to worry about financial obligations or whatever, because we are specifically setting money back for the pre-order of that. But we do have that coming out. But I was able to get my hands on an advanced copy of WWE 25. 2K25. So, and when I say advanced copy, 7-day advance, I was able to.
Oh, wow.
I was able to put in a pre-order for that game, and I do have it. I have been playing around with it for like 10 minutes. It's been what I've been pre-ordering, but talk to you a little bit about that off camera, about me maybe doing some live streaming on that game as well. So, blessings that I was able to. I knew it was coming, so I was able to put some money back to be able to pre-order that. So we do have that, and so we have some stuff coming up for y'all on the channel that is NASCAR related. But maybe some stuff also that is not racing related. You have been doing some game streaming with Gotham Knights. Have you completed that?
I did complete that finally. That is finished. So now I've got to figure out another story game to play that I've played before to stream when I'm not streaming racing. So I'll figure that out eventually. Right now my whole focus has been on iRacing. I've been trying so hard to get my license up. I'm like right there for a Class B license. I've got to run 2 more races And I've got the Class B license, so I've been grinding for a while to get my license upgraded for the NASCAR races. So
yeah, a lot of stuff to look forward to on the channel. So y'all be watching out for that. So that's pretty much all I got. I know that was a lot of stuff to look forward to. But yeah, we want to get you guys excited about upcoming content. We want to start producing more upcoming content and try to get the channel to where we have enough subscribers, we have enough views to where maybe we can monetize and start making a little bit of money off of this content to help subsidize the money that we're spending on producing this content, because games are not free.
nope.
They are. Yes, we will say that PlayStation with the PlayStation Network does give us some games for free, but most of them are games that we're not going to stream and play for y'all. So the games that we do have are not free. At the same time, we are not budgeted. Neither one of us are budgeted to where a game comes out, it's a $130 game. We can just, hey, we got $130 sitting in the bank. We can put this out. I mean, like I mentioned with the WWE 2K25, I had to save up for that. The iRacing game that's coming out, we're having to save up for that. College football, we didn't just buy that because we had the money sitting in the bank. We knew it was coming. We knew the launch date, pre-order launch date. So we saved up so that when it was offered, we were able to go ahead and do that. Diecasts, pre-orders. We don't just pay these off when they come in. We pay them off either beforehand or through a pay in four. PayPal has an excellent pay in four thing that we use when these things come out. But so these things aren't free. So we do want to get some sponsors for the channel in addition to the sponsors that we have. And we want to be able to get the channel to where we can monetize that. The only way that we're going to be able to do that is to put out consistent content that people watch. So that's why we're looking at doing all this stuff and streaming all these video games and doing the podcast and doing diecast reviews, is so that we can get other things up. I have a couple of late model diecasts that I'm going to look at. I have Kevin Harvick's Busch Beer late model that just came in. I've got Dale Jr.'s number 8 Budweiser throwback that just came in recently that I'm gonna be looking at here to fill kind of some holes that we may have, because there's 36 races in the year. Our drivers do not win 36 races. If they did, there's no possible way we could afford to buy all of the race win diecast. So when we do have the race win diecasts, we will do reviews on those. We'll do special reviews as we get them to be able to do them. So anyway, as you were saying,
I was just going to mention that I saw pictures of the Dell Jr. Late model, and that looks like a really good diecast.
It is beautiful. If I am able to get in the case where I have his 2003, 2004 Budweiser cars, I will get one out and use it for comparison. I am not moving a case to do that. So, but if I'm able to get to that, I will do my best to get in and get a comparison for that, because it is a beautiful diecast. As is Kevin Harvick's Busch Beer diecast, late model diecast. It is a beautiful car. So we'll be looking at those. Any other channel announcements other than what you've already made?
No, that is it. But like Duke Raider said, we're pushing out. We're trying to push out some content for you guys. Stuff we both enjoy, but we know y'all might enjoy as well. if it's possible, we'd love to monetize. I know we need a minimum of 100 subscribers to start that. So I believe the content, the channel content, it has been there for quite some time, but we need the subscribers. So we'll continue to push out content. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell people you don't like. Get us out there. We'd appreciate it. We're at 25, only 75 more to go. But for those of you that have stuck around since the beginning or joined in, we appreciate it. I'm also going to try and push out some more shorts. I know when I pushed out a few, even though they were just kind of random, that they really helped boost the channel some. So I'll try to work on some short contents as well. So other than that, that is all I've got.
Yeah, so let's shout out our non-sponsors. I know that the podcast will probably not ever sponsor, but we do have some that I'll call out that we wouldn't mind sponsoring. So we got the Scene Vault podcast with Rick Houston and Steve Wade. Excellent podcast of the history of the sport. Door Bumper Clear with Freddie Kraft, Tommy Baldwin, and guests. They've had some excellent guests. They had Connor Zillage this week. They had Noah Gragson a couple weeks ago. They had I can't even remember the other guests that they've had, but it's a lot different than this year than it has been in years past. Please do not listen with little ears around. They have taken it up a notch. We'll just say with the language. So do not listen with little ears. It's still a great show. I mean, but it's not something you want to let your kids listen to. Dale Jr. Download with Dale Jr. TJ Majors is on that now. It's great. Actions Detrimental with Denny Hamlin. Just gets more and more interesting every year. The Teardown with Jeff Gluck and Jordan Bianchi. Happy Hour with Kevin Harvick. Stacking Pennies with Corey LaJoie. Excellent podcasts. Check them all out. Follow Bob Pockrass on Twitter. Follow Matt Weaver on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. It's probably always going to be Twitter to me, just like the door numbers are always going to belong Door Center to me. Jayski on X, jayski.com for your stats. Also, all of the guys that we mentioned beforehand that have podcasts, follow them on X as well. Couch Racer is an excellent follow. Brock Beard on X and on YouTube. I know he's got another video coming up here before too long. And then the one that we would love to have sponsor us is CircleB.com for all of your diecast needs. I have noticed that Lionel Racing has picked up their sponsorship, especially for the Dirty Mo Media podcast. So Circle B Diecast, if you want to jump on board with our diecast reviews and help us out with those and be able to do those. I mentioned that diecasts are not cheap. They are not free. But if Circle B, if you just want to send us a diecast, have me review it, and send it back to you, we can do that too. As kind of a partnership for that. So, but yeah, anything that y'all are willing to do to help out the channel, we would love to have you as part of our channel.
Absolutely. Good podcasts, great people on Twitter for information as well, and Circle B, of course. For our partners of the channels, our sponsors, you've got Dubby Jitterless Energy Blend. Just came out with another flavor, Tiger's Blood, strawberry, watermelon, coconut. I know you can't do coconut, but I do
Yeah.
plan on getting this tub 100%. They're literally watermelon strawberry is like my favorite of anything. And I think that hint of coconut might actually make it even better. So I plan on getting it. So check them out. Use code SterlingRider for 20% off. Then, of course, you got Rankest Rope Ranch wear, as you see on my hat. 80s, 90s Western and rodeo styles mixed together. Check them out. Silver Duke 01 for 15% off at checkout with them. And then you have Undrdog Athletix, UDX, Christian Faith Athletic Apparel for you or your kids. SterlingRider 01 for 15% off with them as well. And then follow Him Apparel, regular faith-based apparel, SterlingRider for 15% off at checkout for them. So check them all out. Thank you for those guys for being sponsors and partners to the channel. Dubby has been with me pretty much since day one. And they've been superb. So I appreciate them a lot. And of course, I thank the others as well. So go check them out, show them some support. And yeah, with that being said, that is all I got. So make sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't. Hit the notification bell so you know when there's a stream or a new podcast or a new diecast review or multiple of the other things we said. I don't even remember what all content we said we were going to push out. There's so much, but look forward to that. A little bit of a content rollout being uprising coming soon. So stay tuned for that. Leave a comment if there's something you'd like to suggest, or questions, concerns, of NASCAR or gaming wise. We will do our best to answer those for you. Yeah. Anything else?
That's all I got. We got Phoenix and Las Vegas coming up, the West Coast swing. It's going to be interesting. Can Christopher Bell go 3 in a row? Can Christopher Bell go 4 in a row? He has been superb at both of these tracks. So has so has William Byron, so has Chase Elliott, so has Kyle Larson, and then we just never know. I mean, Penske at Phoenix.
Yep.
They have been absolute crap in the spring, dominant in the fall. So, we got a lot to look forward to the next couple of races, and we'll see y'all in a couple of weeks for the podcast. Other stuff in between now and then.
Yeah. So
that's all I've got. Y'all have a blessed weekend and fun weekend of racing for the next 2 weeks.
Absolutely. So we'll see you guys next podcast episode after Las Vegas, of course. So enjoy the race weekends, enjoy the next couple weeks, and we will see you guys then. So with that being said, peace out, ride on, God bless.